Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It seems my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left me.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness podcast. For those who've been wondering, producer Blue is still on the show, of course. I know she's been absent from being on air, but she's got a lot of editing stuff to do, and I've had a lot of crazy guests, and, it's been fun, and she's kind of been swamped with her own personal shit, so, just work and whatnot. She does, as you know, nursing as a primary career, and then helps me fix my IT clusterfucks in the process as I go. So she's been swamped and busy, and I've had a lot of great guests that, just didn't want too many cooks in the kitchen, and she decided to take that opportunity to do some of her own shit, really. So, anyways, that being said, she'll be back, don't you worry. Now, I have an amazing guest, Wendy Stuart Kaplan. Absolutely amazing talking to Wendy. She's an actress, a model, an author, a director of documentaries. She even has her own YouTube channel, which is super cool. And a cool show, Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. It's so cool. You gotta check it out. What a concept. I thought that was awesome. She was a blast to talk to, and we're gonna have her back just because we need to talk about all the fad diets and, nutrition nonsense that people are getting themselves into. And let's be clear, ketosis is not good, dude. Unless you're suffering from seizures, then it's beneficial. Otherwise, it's just not safe. It's not healthy. I know it's a fad, and everyone thinks it's the greatest thing because you lose a few pounds right off the bat. Any diet, in the first 2 weeks, you're going to lose a lot of weight because it's water weight. So it's not because you cut out carbs. Carbs are good, just the right ones. So, we get into some of that. But we get into a lot of stuff. So she was such a blast to talk to, and I look forward to having her back. Check it out. Wendy Stuart Kaplan, awesome guest.
Okay, so how is everything though? Like, how's it going over there? Because, like you said, off air, it's kind of a mess, and
we're all, I'm in New York City, and if anyone can recover from this, it's going to be New York City, right?
Right, and it's so hectic.
It's hectic, and we were the first to take the hit. I mean, really, 3 days before they shut it down, a lot of my friends are performers like me, and we all support each other. So I was on the Lower East Side. I was downtown, going to clubs, hearing singers. One of the last things I did before they shut New York down, which was so cool. You know the show Dexter? Remember the show about the serial? Oh, what was his name? What was it? Michael C. Hall, right?
Right.
I didn't know Michael C. Hall was also a performer. And a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, his band's going to be downtown. I forgot which club it was, a well-known club. And this was like the Tuesday before. And I said, I'll definitely go. And we got there. Now, he's really popular, and they were going to have 2 shows that night. Well, they made it 1 show, and there were only 20 people in the audience. Now, this is New York, Keith. That is unheard of. And I said to myself, this thing that is heading towards us is got to be even more real than real. That's what I said to myself. And, of course, I stayed for the show, and after it was really easy to get those cheesy photo ops that we love. I love doing that, so I can put them up on my social media. And plus, besides being an amazing musical performer, he is a wonderful guy. So we took a bunch of pictures and everything, and then 2 days later, March 12th, boom, New York shut down, tighter than a drum. And it being the most hectic city in the world, as you said, all of a sudden, like, streets are like ghost town. It was really unbelievable. And it didn't matter where you went. And they shut the subways down. I mean, we went into free fall. That's what it was like. And then they kept talking about this curve, which, these are all terms. I didn't know what any of this meant. Remember when you were in school, a curve was like, did you have like graphics in school, when they gave you a graph?
Yeah.
I was never good at that.
That wasn't my strong suit either.
I was thinking of this graph, and, they said how it was going to, like, go up and up and up and then hit a point. They didn't really describe what that was. Well, what they didn't tell you was, I live in the city. They didn't tell you that ambulances would be going day and night, and this would just, it was like, whoa. And our governor was on television every day just trying to reassure people. But, I mean, nobody was ready for this. Absolutely not ready for this.
No, I can't imagine New York with like 20 people in the street. That looks like the
Not
apocalypse to me.
Not, it was. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. It was. I'm stealing that from you.
You know?
Because I talk about this all the time to people because people talk about this with me because I've totally reinvented myself because of the pandemic. I've had to. But yes, it was a apocalypse. And sometimes there weren't even 20 people. There was nobody.
You
And
know,
it didn't matter where you went. You could, I still have friends who are photographers going around the city. Really, there's still a ton of areas where you're still not seeing people. You'll see like bike messengers because business is just starting to get out there a little bit already. But you know what? It's crazy. How are things up by you?
it's really cool actually where at now in Canada, which is funny because I'm from Toronto, which is
I love that's
almost
a great city
it's
though.
so much like New York because
Yeah.
the subways, the busy, hectic, but now I'm in Nova Scotia as of 3 years ago.
Oh my, you're kidding. That's so funny. I didn't know you were there. I have a funny story to tell you about that area and is it Newfoundland?
Newfoundland's not too far.
I knew it
Uh,
wasn't too far. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
Nova Scotia's like off on its own,
It
and
is.
it's actually right now in Canada the safest place to be with all of this because they've really stayed on top of it and kept it
That's
contained. So
right.
we went the longest without any new cases. I think we
Oh,
even
but I love hearing that. That's so great. There's a number of places that have been like that. It's important for people to hear that you can stay on top of this, but you got to get a jump on it.
yeah,
You have to jump on it.
I think we actually surpassed New Zealand at this point with
Get out. Wow.
uh,
And I know all of it. My cousin was in New Zealand and we did like a Zoom call, I think a week after this all happened. And I'm here in New York flipping out. It was really awful. And I see my cousin, she's on the terrace of an apartment with like mountains and water and stuff in the background. And I'm like, what's it like for you there? And she said, not too bad. It's not too bad. We have to wear a mask and they're sanitizing everything, but our numbers are low and they're going to keep them low. And you know what they did?
yeah, I mean here it was like when they felt it was safe enough, they reopened the borders, and as soon as any new case popped up where it was like, okay, maybe bad idea, shut them down again.
You can't. When did they first open borders by you? I'm curious.
I think it was a month or so back. Where they tried it out, but then when that didn't end so well, they were like, okay, now that things have we'll close them again. Now that things have calmed down again, we'll allow within the Atlantic part of the country
Yes.
to have their own little bubble where you could go from here to New Brunswick, or maybe Newfoundland, but anything outside of like Ontario to go to Toronto is not happening.
You couldn't, but look at all those nice places that you could travel to.
Right.
I'm jealous.
I don't miss Toronto. I mean, I spent my whole life there,
You
so
did.
I
Right.
like
And you're loving where you are now.
yeah, I like the calm, and it's just a slower pace. It's so laid back here where it's just like, worry about something when the time comes. And when the time comes, you still don't worry about it because it's
I,
like,
I love that. What a great philosophy. And you have salmon there. Nova Scotia salmon, right? Comes
yeah.
from you?
yeah, the lobster's really good too.
Really?
Oh, it's solid.
Yeah, wow. So I have a funny Newfoundland story. I went to an amazing astrologer, very well known, and this was back in December, right before all this happened. And everybody tells me what he tells you to do is totally on the up and up, and listen to him because it'll change your year. So I go see him, and I was told he's going to tell you have to travel somewhere. And my birthday was January 15th. And he said he told me I was going to have to be in a special place January 15th. And he goes over to his computer, Keith, and he's like plotting all these things. I'm sitting there like on the edge of my seat. I'm like all excited, wondering where he's going to send me. And he comes back over to me and he says, you're going to be going to St. John. And I'm like, yes, January 15th, St. John. I saw myself like on a beach with snorkel gear, rubbing on suntan lotion, feeling real tan, real blonde, and all fabulous. And then he says, yes, St. John, Newfoundland. So I was like, in January. Yeah, he tells me. So and he said, that's where you have to go because it will change the course of your year. So the person who had sent me to him, who's a friend of mine, who's a very well-known therapist, she said, you have to go. He told you to do that. You have to go. So I go online and I'm looking at tickets. First of all, you probably know there's no direct flights from here.
No.
It's Timbuktu. There's not only no direct flights, it's in the dead of winter. So for me to get there for January 15th, I was going to have to get on a plane, I think January 12th. And I had looked at, I had this all plotted out, Keith. I was going to stay at a hotel in the airport just to hedge my bets. There was one right near there to make sure I was, there when my planets were going to be lining up on the 15th in Newfoundland, of all places. So I go online, I have this whole thing planned. I'm checking out airfares and I put things on hold. Well, lo and behold, and you probably know this better than anyone, you know about the weather out there by you, right? I learned a brand new word. It's called snow bomb. There was a snow bomb. I had no idea what that was. There was a snow bomb, and you're going to love this. It was heading right in that 2.5 day window that I had to go there. So I thought, I didn't know what to do. And this astrologer, I call him back, and he tells me I still have to go. So you know what? I decided not to. I thought it would be dangerous, and I was afraid I would get stuck up there. How long do people get stranded for in a snow bomb?
Thankfully, I haven't lived in an area where we've really had to experience that. So,
but you've heard it, right? It's something.
Oh yeah. There's some places in Canada that they get just hammered.
Right, with a snow bomb. That means you can't get out and nobody can get in.
Right, and everyone I talk to, it floors them when I tell them that when I moved out here, which is east of Toronto, we don't get nearly as cold as Toronto does. We don't get as much snow as Toronto does.
I'm shocked. Wow.
Yeah, I've had days in December where I go out in a t-shirt and I'm like, this isn't so bad. And then Toronto, it's minus almost 20 or 30.
Yeah.
Minus 24, and they're getting hammered with snow and nowhere to put it. And, they're complaining it just doesn't stop. And I'm like, we haven't gotten any. So you guys can keep it.
Well, you know what? Nova Scotia's sounding better and better to me.
It's beautiful.
But just think I might have changed the whole course of my life if I had just gone up there and experienced the snow bomb.
Newfoundland is far enough from here that I've never been there myself, but they're the friendliest people. I'm told.
I heard.
I'm told if you go there and you have nowhere to stay, you could go to any random door and they'll be like, come on in, we'll take care of you. They're so trusting and they're so...
You're the fifth person that told me that. I heard that from people here.
Yeah, I know people that moved to the Toronto area from Newfoundland and they say, if there was more to offer at home besides a fishing career, they would stay. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
But it's funny you say it. I'm born January 21st. So
I knew you were a Capricorn.
Yeah, I'm actually Aquarius and Capricorn. I'm on the cusp.
You're on the cusp. But what a great sign to be. I have what do I have? I have something in Aquarius, So I got that even before you said it.
And of course I hate winter, so I have to be born in winter because, screw me, I guess. But
oh yeah, I tell you, I totally share that with you. I hate the winter too, but honestly, with all of this coming down the pike now, I kept saying, oh, I'm gonna work out in California more. Oh, maybe I'll go to I'm staying right here put in New York. First of all, our winters are not as bad as they used to be. Second of all, California is frying now. It's absolutely crazy.
This blew people's mind that I talked to recently, but a few weeks back, I had Ken Sagos on my show from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
Oh my God, I was going to say, who is it? And I know those films.
Yeah,
brilliant, right?
He was awesome. And I was curious because he's in California. And I was sitting here complaining about the heat. and I'm sweating, and I'm like, it is so brutal here. I wonder what it's like in California before I complain. And it turned out that the temperature here was the exact same that it was that day in California.
Get out.
It's
Wow.
just for us, because we go by Celsius and not Fahrenheit. For us,
Right.
it sounds a lot less. It's 29 degrees. But when you convert it to, Fahrenheit in the US, it's like damn near 100. It's like, oh, it's bad. They have
So wait, this is interesting to me. You got that hot where you are in Nova
Yeah,
Scotia?
like all
Wow.
summer, it's been like 29 degrees. It's been brutal.
So it must be the global warming.
And I mean, we're around water too. Like we're surrounded by it, right? So I,
Right.
I think the humidity comes off the water. And so I was like, oh, I guess I can complain about the heat because you guys are getting it just as bad over in California. I don't feel so bad because
Totally.
it's actually the same temperature. We just
I had
don't
no
have.
idea. That's why I love doing shows like this. I learn something like all the time, Because
Right.
I love traveling.
Oh, it's
I
great.
Oh my God, I don't know how much you got to read about me, but I make documentary films is one of the things I do. I do a gazillion things, but I make films about endangered animals and endangered people, which is how I know about the Inuit situation in Canada, the people in the Northern Territories, which is totally fascinating to me, the way of life there and everything. But one of our most recent films, and I say we, my husband and I are a team. We did a film about going to Cameroon and two women that are rescuing primates, gorillas and chimpanzees.
Yes, I love that because I
Is
love them, and I was like, that is so cool that that's what you do.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's one of the many things, but that was very special to me. And I'm a very spontaneous and impulsive person, which is both good and bad.
Right.
And I'm a member of the Explorers Club in New York, which is, it's a club representing 3,400 people approximately in the world that are into exploration. And we have a huge Canadian chapter, by the way. So if there's any of you out there listening, hey, Canada. So there were two women that came to speak at the Explorers Club, and one was Rachel Hogan from Ape Action Africa, and the other was Sherry Speed from Sanaga Young Rescue Center. Both of these women have devoted their entire lives to taking care of primates in these rescue centers. Now, people say to me, why do we need to have rescue centers? Because of the poaching situation. And in a small country like Cameroon, the parents of gorilla and chimpanzee parents are poached for bushmeat, which is a delicacy. People ask what's bushmeat. It's a very expensive meat that they will eat in the Middle East. They'll eat it in Asia. I've also been told there's places in New York even, very expensive. Okay, so these chimps and gorillas have a bounty on them. They're also used for medicinal purposes. People that believe in those traditional medicines where grinding up some kind of bone will increase your virility. This happens also with rhino and elephant horn, right? So
Yeah.
we're aware of all this stuff. And Rachel Hogan was from Britain, and 20 years ago, she went to Cameroon, heard about this, and decided she was going to devote her life. And then Dr. Sherry Speed formed a rescue center 10 hours from Rachel's, and Sanagi Young has 64 chimpanzees. Now, we're talking about these women doing this under, honestly, these conditions there are not great. It's a part of the world. People are very poor. And yet this shows, like, if you really believe in something, Keith, and you want to really make a difference, they're both so committed. And they get the babies when the mothers are killed. They're either brought in by trackers or brought in by kind people that find them. There are all kinds of ways that they get them. And the baby gorillas or chimpanzees are raised, this is the coolest story, in a foster care situation with a human volunteer. The human volunteer becomes like the mother for a year and has to teach the baby gorilla or the baby chimpanzees the things that the mother would actually teach them in the wild.
Wow.
And then once they reach a certain age, like a year old, they still cannot be released into the forest. They'll be killed again. So the families, the gorilla or chimpanzees families, are kept in 4-acre enclosures. And what's really cool about that, I use the word enclosure, but 4 acres is a lot of space.
Yeah.
They can live their primate life that way. The gorillas were so impressive. They have their nests. The chimpanzees carry on their family hierarchies. And what they do with the baby is introduced to usually a few different families to see if it clicks. Because just like us, we don't get along with everybody.
Right.
Right? You know how it is. So, they have to see if the baby gorilla or the baby chimpanzee fits in with the family. And once they see that they're accepted into the group, right? It's all about acceptance. It's not all that different from high school and being popular. Once that happens, it's golden, and they're ensuring the survival of a species. Plus, the really cool thing, one of the things I love, all the local people reap the benefits of this. You can't do a program like this unless you look at who all the locals are and say, how can we improve their lives? Well, they are employed by the rescue center, so they have jobs. They're also, now the farmers are growing food for gorillas and chimpanzees to eat. And in one case, one of the places has over 350 primates. That's a lot of food you got to grow. So you see, it's a win-win situation, and the schoolhouses are built so the kids get educated why poaching is not a good thing. And you know what? You see programs like this, and they can work anywhere somebody really wants to stick their neck out and do it. Plus, you also need the cooperation of local governments to say, hey, we're going to give you this land for your rescue center. So you know what? It's totally cool. Have you ever been to Africa?
I have not, but I would love to go.
I bet I can take one look at you and know you probably would love to go.
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, and someone could give me 4 acres, and I wouldn't be mad at that. I mean, I'd take that.
Oh my gosh! A 4-acre enclosure, with everything you need.
Right, I wouldn't be mad. Like, that's
right.
fine. If it doesn't cost me nothing, I'll take it.
Right, it's great. Like completely subsidized, and besides there being trees in the enclosure that grow the kind of food that you like to eat, they're also supplemented. Again, the local farmers grow stuff, so we would do like banana runs and all kinds of fruits and vegetables that the chimps or gorillas like to eat. So yeah, I love sharing this with people because it's a very positive story of what can be done out there in the world, and how all of us can make a difference. Right now, like in Africa, Sue, many people I'm sure that are listening have heard about safaris, and lots of people go on these safaris. For many people, that's like a dream thing. And the Maasai people in Nairobi, outside of Nairobi in Kenya, and the Maasai, they are very traditional in the way they dress. And I did a movie about them that is not out yet. We're still working on editing that. But what's so cool about them is they're running a lot of the lodges there, so they're profiting from the business. And then their kids go to regular colleges, like in universities in Nairobi. So they're getting the education that they need to help come back and take the traditions of the villages, but kind of teach the people about microfinancing and really how to make money from the crafts and things like that. So I choose to make films about all the positive stuff that's going on in the world, and the thing with COVID coming into places like this, I mean, it's hit everywhere in the world. We all have to agree. It's like a common denominator for everywhere. None of us in our lifetime have had anything like that hit everywhere equally in the world.
That's true. And I was thinking, too, with how divisive everything seems to be lately, it should be the one thing that we all have in common. But we as people, I think, will find a way to be divisive about everything. Like, so now it's masks are nonsense, or it's all conspiracy theory. There's always got to be something that people want to disagree on. It's so ridiculous.
So maybe do you think that that's just human nature? That's just how people are?
Yeah, I think people cling to opinions way too much and value opinions. Like I had said in a documentary just made about my life recently, I said, like, opinion is the lowest form of intellect because you could spread it like wildfire. People will believe it. If it sounds good, it could just be conjecture.
Right.
But if it sounds correct or good to the ear, people will spread it like it's factual, but there's literally no evidence to back it up.
Exactly. I can't believe that you came out with that quote, though, because I'm taking your quote and let's apply that to social media, which is total and complete opinion, right?
Right. That's the fuel, you know?
It's unbelievable, right? So it's taking everything and saying that orange is purple and purple is orange and anything can, and then it'll get 50 people to weigh in with their opinion. And
Yeah.
my favorite thing is it's just my opinion. When someone defends what they're saying, it's
Right.
just my, and you want to just say to them, well, your opinion isn't worth anything anyway.
Right. And, like I was just talking to my producer last night, and I said, I had said something that I truly believed, and I tend to, go all in, and that's who I am. But if I find out that I was wrong, I told her, like, I think there's a certain power in being able to say, you know what? Sorry, I fought for that so hard, and it turns out I wasn't even correct. That's on me. Like,
Because you can own it. You can own
right.
it.
It's like,
Right.
now I learned something new, and I really went all in on that. Like, I really believed I was right. And then a little research, and I was like, oh, I should really make it a point to make sure that my research is accurate before I really cling to a belief. And I'm like, people need to own that, you can really get passionate about something, and I get that. And you could fight for something and be like, no, this is exactly how it is. Then you find out you're wrong. Don't try to say, well, the internet says or whatever. Just own it and be like, you know what? My mistake. You're
Right.
right. I'm wrong. And I really went all in on that opinion. And I truly believed what I thought was accurate. Turns out I'm not even close to correct. So my
But
mistake.
that's okay, though.
Right. I
Like,
mean,
as people, we can't be so hard on ourselves, and we have to be. Here's the thing. I feel in these times there's so many people that don't want to be accountable, right, for
right.
their actions.
It's
We're all accountable, Keith. You are, I am, and as people, we all make mistakes. And guess what? It's not the end of the world, you
exactly.
know?
And that's why I feel there's so much power in being able to own it and say, I learned something now.
Right.
And my mistake for coming at you really passionate about something that I was not even correct about. There's a power in owning that and saying, you know what, I just learned a lesson today. I learned
Yes.
something new, but there is such a lack of personal accountability that I cannot stand.
Yeah, I can't stand it either. You know that's a Capricorn though in us, not the
Right.
Aquarius.
Everything's
It's
somebody else's fault.
right. I can't stand that. I mean, it's such a lack of integrity and it's the blame game, right? And
Right.
you just want to say to somebody, you know what? Those are your actions. Each one of us has to be responsible for our actions. It is okay. It is okay to make mistakes, all right?
Right.
As long as you can say, "Oh my gosh, I made that mistake. It's on me." But I'm a person and people make mistakes. It
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
Now you had me on pins and needles. You told me they made a documentary about you.
Yeah, because my life has been insane.
I know, but you can't throw that into my universe and not have me. Now I am so chomping at the bit. Okay, you go. I want to hear this.
Oh,
I'm excited about this.
it's just, I had a crazy life where it was 10 months old. My mother was no longer in my life. And, I hear all different stories about she abandoned you or you were taken from her because your old man, is malicious in that sense because he was bitter that she left, whatever. You hear all different sides and you don't know who's trying to protect you.
Exactly.
Right. So, and then he was an abusive type of person, like physically, mentally, especially. So you grow up being told every day you will never be anything. You're never going to amount to nothing. Somebody would be like, oh, high school. So you're going to go into college soon. Why bother? I ain't paying for that. He's just going to like drop out or,
Right, you're just going to throw it away. You're
yeah,
not worth it.
fail anyway, whatever. So why bother? Oh, you get your license soon. Why? I'm not putting him on my insurance. So then he hits somebody screwing around and, then it costs me. Nah, screw that. So it's like no one believes in you at all. And at 15 years old, I left home and lived on the
Wow.
streets just to get away from a bad situation. And I had people that wanted to like give me a place and all this. And I was like, no, I made a choice. I have to see this through, because I'm not your parents' responsibility financially. I made this choice and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I can't just be like, oh, now it's their problem because they want to help and do the
But
easy
here you
thing.
are at 15 being accountable for your actions.
Right. And
Right?
then,
How many 15-year-olds are accountable for their actions, honestly? So this is something that's intrinsic to your personality.
right. And then before you know it, I started to kind of be like, what if that's wrong? That I will never be anything. What if I applied myself? What if I just tried? Right. I never would have thought in a million years. I'm known all over the world. I became an MMA fighter. And
Get out.
yeah,
Wow.
known all over the world for multiple things, that my business and things of that nature. And now I get to sit and talk to very successful people as well that kind of probably paralleled what I went through in some cases. You never know. And it's just crazy that the same person that told me I would never be nothing, I just spent the last week sitting talking to people that he grew up listening to music wise, that I remember seeing when I pulled out the old I was telling Kenny Lee Lewis about this recently. I said I remember the old wood panel drawers with the cassettes in them.
Yes. Oh,
Right,
yes.
with the velvet lining inside, and seeing Steve Miller Band tapes and all these other
Cassette
bands.
tapes. Yes.
And here
Yeah.
I am talking to people that were a part of that. And I was
So,
told by the person that owned those tapes, you'll never be nothing. Well, here I am talking to your heroes because I
wow.
aim of my, for myself. It's a trip. So like then I was approached with like, you need to do a documentary about your life because it's crazy that you are not some kind of junkie or a criminal, or you actually do motivational speaking for people and tell them, because I'm a high school dropout. I had to support myself financially. I couldn't do
You did it.
full
That's the
time.
point. We're sitting here and you did it. And your life has come full circle.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And what an inspiration.
Yeah, thanks. That's high praise. I mean, that's a huge compliment. And for me, it was just like it was a choice of like you could give up now, or what's it going to hurt to try?
Right.
And if you fail, get up and try again.
Right. So
And
you're not afraid of failing. That's what I'm not afraid of
I
failing either.
I
That's
welcome
what you're
it.
telling me.
I
Mhm.
welcome it because that's how I learn.
Right. Right.
If I didn't fail a few times along the way, I would never know what works.
Wow. Very, very, very impressive. And here we are today and talking about all of this. I had a different childhood than you, but I grew up in the Bronx, loving family, but my mother wanted me to go get a job with a phone company. My sister, she said, was college material. I wasn't, even though I had good grades, but my sister had a photographic memory. I had to study, I had to work extra hard, but I did work extra hard, Keith, My
Right.
mother said, you should get a job with a phone company when you get out of school because then you'll have something to fall back on. I went to college, nobody was really expecting that, right? And I'm going to go back to when I was 5 years old because there was two things I told my mother. I told her I wanted to become a model at 5 and that I was going to go live in Africa. Two things, right? And this is all of our intuitive selves talking. You too.
Yeah.
That intuitive self was already in you as a little kid, no matter how abusive or people telling you couldn't. Who you were going to be, that's already there. And I tell people, you got to listen to your heart. So right before I got into the modeling industry, I was in college and I was majoring in anthropology and archaeology, the closest thing I could get to Africa and learning about people there. This opportunity came to go to Nigeria, and there weren't a lot of kids applying to the program. It was a new program. Everyone said it was, it's kind of rough over there. You're kind of crazy for doing it. My boyfriend at the time was a filmmaker. He was kind of crazy too. He said, this is like so cool. And it was in the Black Studies department. He said, let's go talk to them. And, we told them we wanted to do a project on traditional beliefs and traditional medicine, right? And we got picked for the program. And shortly after, I found myself in this little village called Ife in Nigeria. with, blonde hair down to my waist, and children that had never seen anybody that looked like a me before. And I love telling this story. They're the little village I would walk through. I was learning Yoruba at the university. I had to learn how to speak the language. And everyone would yell, even from their little stores, Odabo Oibo, meaning hello. And I thought it was, white stranger or European stranger. I thought that's what Oibo meant. So one day, my friend at the university, who is Nigerian and a wonderful guy, Jide Ebegunde, said to me, Wendy, you know what Oibo is, right? I go, yeah, it means like stranger or foreigner. He says, no. He said, it's the white skin on the orange when you peel it. So here I was in my naive state, but the people were so amazing and so wonderful. And I really got to see a lot of things there that absolutely rocked my world that I couldn't explain. I went to a lot of traditional healing rituals. And if you know about that stuff, and you look like the kind of guy that probably does, you can't explain it. And it's certainly something that's to be respected and accepted, and not up to me to question in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't. I accepted what I saw. So I come back from Nigeria, and I go to the Museum of Natural History trying to get a job there. Nobody wanted to hire me. They had an opening in the bookstore. Like when you're 21 years old, it doesn't occur to you that like you're not going to start working as an anthropologist.
Right.
So the second thing that was in the back of my mind, all right, you know what? I'm going to try modeling. And that seemed to be the right thing because that's how I met my husband, who I'm currently with. We've been together for years and years and years before we even got married. And I started modeling then, and I've been doing it for decades, and I'm still doing it. Still doing it. So this is about listening to your heart,
right,
and following your path in life, And it's funny because my family, I'm still the UFO. My mother has long passed away. She did get to see a lot of my success. But in my family, I'm still the UFO. I think they would have probably preferred maybe a path that they could more connect to or relate to. But look at us. We're here and we're doing our thing. Isn't that great?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of power in that. And I never really on the surface ever felt like I had this ambition where like, oh, I want to be famous or whatever. But I think once I hit my 30s, there was just something that snapped where I feel like it just clicked where it was like, maybe if I have that opportunity to become known all over the world, I should jump on that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I thought, what if it is true that my mother just bailed one day, couldn't handle the responsibilities of being a parent, or the relationship was trash because I see how he was with me. He probably didn't treat you any damn better. And I thought, okay, if I can become known all over, wherever she's at, because I don't know her, maybe then she'll maybe one day see me out there, see my name, and it's kind of a way of letting her know I'm okay. And I forgive.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. You are right.
And I
right.
forgive you. I turned out fine. I forgive you. There's nothing I'm mad about. You know what I mean? If because you never know. Even if that's true, what if somebody down the road has regret? So it's to give that peace of mind, maybe, of like, I'm all right. I turned out just fine. I turned out successful. I turned out fine. I'm doing as well as I can, and I am not mad. So don't, like, forgive yourself. Don't
forgive yourself. It sounds like you've forgiven her also.
Absolutely, right? So it's kind of my way of letting her know, with the best way I can, is I did not turn out to be a criminal or a junkie or, just quit on myself because I blame you, like people tend to do. They cling to, well, my life was so hard from day one, so I'm just going to use that as an excuse. It's like, no, I didn't go that route, as you can see. So don't blame yourself. I turned out all right in spite of all that. So.
Right, and I don't blame you.
Right.
Don't blame yourself. I don't blame you.
Right.
I'm okay, Mom.
Yeah, so no hard feelings. You know what I mean? I get
Right.
it. We all have our reasons.
Sure. How did you get into broadcasting? This is very curious to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm somebody who, I'm an opinionated person, I guess. But
After we talked about people having
right,
opinions, oh my gosh, the truth comes out.
but I tend to make sure my opinions are educated. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I do my research, and I'm somebody who, at the end of the day, my show is about telling people just don't be dicks to each other. Like be cool to each other.
Love it.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we all end
Yeah.
up the same way. We all had struggles. I have the same 24 hours in the day as you do.
Exactly right.
It's how I manage my time that put me where I'm at. It's how I manage those struggles that put me where I'm at. So you can do the same. Don't put me on a pedestal.
Well, and right, exactly. And don't you think, and you know this, and I know this too, no matter how bad it gets, you can always, every day in our lives, we've been given one thing, each and every one of us. Every day can be different. Every day is different. Feelings are always changing. Okay, I wrote my book, She's the Last Model Standing. Yeah, it's about modeling, but really the story is about coming to New York with $800 in my pocket, no support, okay, and taking that and turning it into something amazing. And I can sit here and tell you that I had every crummy modeling job you could possibly imagine. All right. I was dressed up in a chicken suit, handing out flyers for a chicken restaurant. All right. I sprayed perfume in department stores. You know those girls. I was a perfume girl sprayer, and it was Bloomingdale's, really snobby, and people would walk past me like, "Oh, who are you? Get away from me with your sprayer." And finally, this one wonderful guy comes over to me. He's dressed in a suit. He's really good looking. And I say, "Would you like a spray of Chloe?" And he looks at me, he said, "I'd love a spray of Chloe." And he walks behind my counter, unzips his fly, and starts urinating there. Okay. That was my best customer that day. Keith, trust me, I've been through it. And my book is filled with these kinds of stories. And why? Because at the end of it, look where I am now. All right. Because it was taking lemons and turning it into lemonade each and every time. Believe me when I tell you, I was turned down by every model agency. And finally I got one to take me. And I was told so many things were wrong with me. My nose was too big. I was too fat. I was this, I was that. And I just continued to move forward. And the irony, yesterday I shot a huge campaign for a very big client. And the agency that booked me on it was Wilhelmina. They're world renowned. And I would have cut off my arm at 21 years old to be with them. They wouldn't have even looked at me. So my point to this is I have a book chock full of these stories. And within the book, She's the Last Model Standing, people will see it starts to turn around. And the reason it starts to turn around is I just wouldn't stop. And honestly, sure as I sit here right now, I'm still doing that. I mean, I tell people the story, March 12th, my entire career, and anyone who worked in nightlife, anyone who was an entertainer, anyone who was an actor, a model, all of our work came to a screeching halt with no idea how to replace that.
Right.
And I stood in my kitchen really slightly over 24 hours later. And my husband said to me, "What are we going to do?" And I looked at him and I said, "We're going to do a cooking show." And he said, "You don't cook." And I said, "Exactly. I don't cook. I hate cooking." But I said, "I'm a funny person and you're a really brilliant photographer. And if we can't do something that's going to raise people up," because that was the whole thought behind it, right? I wasn't going to be competing with Rachel Ray or, the world's greatest cook or any of the big stars you think about. I was going to be me, Wendy, because like you, Keith, who we are as people at the end of the day is really what matters. So that was probably March 15th. We taped our first episode. I used a food that was delivered from Fresh Direct. I don't know if you have them in Canada, but they have these meals where they put everything in the box for you.
Yeah.
It was and this particular meal came with a recipe. So I had the recipe, I had the box, and I'm like, what the heck? I have the audacity. I'm going to do this on camera. And I read the recipe and I cooked this stuff up. And lo and behold, I had my first episode of Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. Now I'm up to episode 74. 74, Keith, will be launched today. All right. What has the show done? It's gotten me tons of notoriety. I'm now hosting my own other show with somebody. I've been on radio shows, talk shows, podcasts. I have people that hire influencers talking to me. This all started from March when everything came to a screeching halt, and I refused to take this for an answer. So there you go. You know, we have to have the courage of our convictions, believe in ourselves. For the medium that you work in now, right here, this is great. This is brilliant. Us talking to each other virtual. As you said, you're now interviewing the people that you idolized as a kid, the music that you used to listen to.
Right. And, you know, for me, this is my first year. Like, I just crossed the year threshold.
Congratulations. Yay.
Thank you. And, you know, I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know, like, people are going to get so damn sick of hearing this, but with an MMA career, you can't do it forever. You get concussions and things like that if you do it for long term. And I just decided, like, you know, if I want to do the family thing and whatever, like, I don't want to be married to my career and date my family on the side. I want to give them what they deserve. So
tell me what makes that career so unflexible, because I don't know anything about that.
I mean, between traveling and having to train all the time, and then of course you look at Muhammad Ali with boxing. By the time his career was done, he was not even able to, you know, be coherent and put together a
sentence. He had been punched in the head so many times, and he had Parkinson's, right?
Right. So you want to cut that as short as possible. And so I was like, this lets me sit and talk to people that I am like-minded with, that also have done what other people view as impossible. It's like, dude, in 2001, I worked at Walmart. You know what I mean? Like,
I am hoping that this is all in the documentary, though, right?
As much as possible. It is crazy to try to fit 37 years into 90 minutes.
No, believe me, I totally get it. And at least yours is 90 minutes. A lot of the films I make are like 42, 45.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but you know what? Those documentaries that people buy them, they watch them. 90 minutes is a full-length feature, and kudos to you that you can put an hour and a half on film about your life. And you got to get the Walmart thing in, because I think that's something a lot of people can connect to. Look at it's great that you worked in Walmart. You know, I've had retail jobs too myself before all of this. But, you know, Walmart is an everyday job.
Yeah.
You know, it's like serving food in a restaurant. It's an everyday job. And I know so many people, they have their fantasies, but they're working an everyday job. And then you turn around and you say, hey, look, I worked in Walmart, and look what I'm doing. Incredible.
Right. I just had to, at one point, I literally did 18-hour days at 2 jobs. Night shift, and then I would still make an hour time for the gym.
You did it.
I would come home, I would spend some time with who I was with at the time. I would sleep 2 hours and get up and do it all over again. Like, I had to sacrifice because I was working 2 corporate jobs and hoping one would hire me full time, like permanent, and not just on a temp basis. So I was putting in 10 hours at one. And then a couple hours later, I'd do another 5 hours at the other. I would still make time for the gym. I'd sleep 2 hours. I'd go do it all over again. And just until my reputation picked up, where like, this guy is committed. You better hire him, because there's another company he's working for that wants to.
Wants him badly.
Right. And then that builds your self-esteem a little bit. And it kind of it repairs the damage that you had your whole life of like, you're not going to be nothing. A corporation that actually is a hard place to get into. I was the first hire that they had in 8 years.
Wow.
So that really makes you realize work ethic does get acknowledged.
Totally.
And sacrifice does pay. And eventually,
but how is it, like, through all of this period of your life, how, in terms of years, let's talk about how many years was this period?
That was a couple years back, and that was like I was there for a couple years, but then
Couple of years.
my son was born with a terminal condition,
On
and
top of this, so you're
yeah,
working two jobs, and then you had a son born with a terminal. Wow.
so then I kind of was like, okay, I'm taking a hiatus from that, and I pursued MMA as like a release, something. And they saw like you're 6'5", 265 pounds of muscle, like you're an animal. That's money. We could do something with you if you're interested, and that's what I wanted. And then it just became I got to make my son proud before he's gone. So
Wow.
that was my motivator, and I just worked so hard at that before I knew it, I was getting opportunities. You're going to go on the road, you're going to make stupid amounts of money. All of a sudden people want you to sign stuff, and people
Yeah, endorse things. You start to get those
right.
endorsements.
And, so I left the corporate career behind, and I appreciate everything they've done. But then in 2018 my son passed 9 days after his second birthday.
I'm
they
so
gave
sorry.
Thank you.
Oh,
They gave him 2 weeks to live. He gave me 2 years,
right.
and he fought so hard. So I tell people, like, I'm an athlete, he's the fighter.
Yeah.
Don't give me that credit. And so I took a hiatus because of that to like heal. And then I was like, I don't need to do this. I've got all these other opportunities. Like, I've got to show that, everyone is like, you need to do it because you're the guy that says the things no one else wants to say.
Yes.
It's not, the truth is never well received, typically. It's not the popular thing to say. But you do it in a way that it actually flatters people, where they realize like you don't come at it from a place of hatred or divisive. Like, you're just telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, and that it's doable. Like, you can do whatever you set out to do, and it's not going to be easy. But think about every time you rode a bike learning, you fell and it hurt,
Right.
but
Right.
you got back up and you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get it. At what point did you like decide that you don't have that drive anymore? When did the world beat you down so bad that you don't have the confidence in yourself that you will get it?
But a lot of people, that's a really great thing to say, because a lot of people do feel that way. And again, there was something in you, something that burned so brightly that no matter what, it's the no matter what factor. You were just gonna do it. And I totally connect with you in that. My second grade teacher, when she had my mother come in, I was terrible in math and I was way behind. And she said, there's one thing I got to say about Wendy. I asked answers from the group, and she always has her hand up first, and they're usually not right. And one of the kids said, you got to give up. And Wendy said, but I never give up. That is your mantra, Keith.
Right.
You don't give up.
That's a learning experience.
Yes.
Find out you're
Yeah.
wrong, but also why you're wrong.
Yeah.
If I know why something didn't work, it sticks with me.
Right.
If I know why something is right, I learn something.
Yes.
That's why I always say, like, educate yourself, because if you guess and you get the answer right, it does nothing for you. You don't care why you got that answer right, even though you guessed and you passed the test. So
It's not cheating, though. It's because it was a guess. It's
right.
not.
So, like, you may pass that test, but it did nothing for you. If
Right.
you got it right because you know why it's right, you've just taken a new piece of information you didn't have before.
Yes.
If you guess and you get it right, you don't look into why you were right. There's no curiosity there. All you care is, I passed that test. Thank God. Don't have to do it again. You don't go back and be like, why was I right, though? Because I guessed. Nobody looks back and says, why was it right? They don't care.
No, they don't care.
They just want that instant gratification. I prefer to find out why my answer was wrong and then know why I'm right the next time I get it right. Because then I now know when that question comes up, this is why I know I'm right. I have confidence that I am right because I know the reason why it's right. It makes sense.
It makes sense. So you know what they call what you're talking about. You're a critical thinker.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah.
I think it's imperative, especially with all the false information and things in the opinions on the internet. And, I think it's critical to be critical, You can't just take everything that sounds good at face value and be like, that sounds like a fact, therefore it is. You have to kind of dissect it and be like, what makes this sound true, and is it true? Because something.
Okay, but that's a whole analysis, and a lot of people, I hear, and I'm sure you hear this too, these truisms, or what you're calling opinions, or I'm like, did they really say that? Did they really say that? It makes me absolutely crazy. And all right, I have to know if you share this with me. Do you call people out on their nonsense?
All the time.
Yeah, I knew you did.
All the time.
Oh, that won't make you so popular. I've learned how to do it in a kind and loving, funny way. I use humor a lot because that'll take you far. But tell me reactions people have had to you when you call them out on their stuff.
Oh man, it's brutal. I got a guest in 5 minutes, so I'm gonna have to make this my final thought. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, because this is awesome. I've had a lot of people like, oh well, and I'm like, what? Say something. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because they just did some research and like, oh,
right.
And they realize my sources are not YouTube or someone else's opinion. It's something that I really dissected for a long time.
And you actually researched.
Right. And for me, a lot of it, tends to come from fitness, where people hear what we call bro science. It sounds good on paper, so it must be true.
I love that, bro science.
Right, because that's all it is, oh, well, this bodybuilder said it. Yeah, that bodybuilder also said they're not using steroids. Guess what? Got some bad news for you.
It's a burst your bubble, right?
Right. So they could sell you everything, but I said, here's the thing. At the end of the day, everything's a business.
Yes.
And you're going to get people telling you that dietitians and, nutrition and things and weight training is not as simple of a science as it is. And why do you think that is? Because then they have a book to sell you on a bunch of false things that sound good.
Right.
And if you were to go by what is true, there's not enough to create a book. It's pretty cut and dry. And then if you give them a bunch of things that sound true, but they're not, now you have a YouTube channel where you could give a video every day.
Oh no, I have a YouTube channel. That's not me though. It's not lies. My YouTube channel is truth.
Well, yeah, but there's people that take advantage because it's like, I'll give you a bunch of fake news, stuff that's not even remotely accurate, because nutrition is a slippery slope where people will buy into a bunch of nonsense.
Are you kidding? That's the biggest marketing thing on the face of the earth. You know it.
So there's so many people on steroids, like, you want to look like me? Here, follow my channel, and I'll give you a bunch of advice that's not even remotely close to true. When you do,
well, it has nothing to do with the person watching it, and you're right. It's just pure marketing.
Right,
make them money. Right.
Because the more viewership they get, the more monetization they get. And here I am surrounded by like the world's best nutritionists that are like, none of that is accurate at all.
Right.
And here's why. And they'll do blood tests to take, samples of your blood to see like traces and levels of important critical things in your blood based on your diet, to make sure they know what they're talking about. So all this nonsense about carbs and keto and all that is so dangerous. It
is. Oh my gosh. I so wish we had more time, because I have so many questions about keto and all of that, but we should definitely continue this at another point.
Come back anytime.
Oh my God. I'd love to be back, because the whole keto thing, I read about all of this. Okay. I go to a nutritionist who, I don't know how much you know about bioidentical hormones, but that's a whole other thing that people are taking for longevity, reverse aging, and for working out. And I'm into all of that. And I never, gosh, and we just found that out. Oh, before we go, because I know you said you had another guest, can I give my handles?
Absolutely.
Okay, so my book is called She's the Last Model Standing. It's available on Amazon. My YouTube channel is Wendy Stuart TV, where you can find Pandemic Cooking with Wendy, 74 episodes, my new show. And I have another show on there called Triversity Talk. It addresses all the issues in the LGBTQ community, and I have a lot of personalities on that show as well. Then let's jump over to Facebook. Wendy Stuart, Stuart. My films are found under Visual Journeys Are Stories on, no, I'm sorry, Visual Diaries Are Stories on Facebook. Instagram, She's the Last Model Standing, where you can find a lot of photographs of a new series I started, Living My Best Pandemic Life. It's me and my mask appearing everywhere. Actually, folks, I have 35 masks, no less than. People make them for me, and I love hashtagging them and getting designers known that way. And Twitter is She's the Last Model Standing. My website, www.wendystuarttv. And that's all, folks. Oh my gosh, I had the best time, Keith.
Oh, me too. I'll give you my email address if you want, and you can
that would be totally
hit me up, and we can do this again.
Totally cool. Hold on. Okay. Tell me.
So it's Tattness.
And I never found out what Tattness was.
Oh, I was a tattoo artist back in the day, and it just became a nickname someone gave me, and it stuck, and then it just became a branding, so it worked.
Well, I thought it had something to do with Katniss, right? That's what I'm like, oh, Tattness. It's like he's got to be coming from there. Okay, so it's Tattness, Tattness.
Yeah, at tattnessco.com.
Cool. Do you have a website?
That's the one, tattnessco.com. So my email is all linked to the website. That's where my documentary is at. That's where my clothing line is at.
And you have clothing too.
Oh yeah, that's my business too. So I mean, getting punched in the face
I didn't even know that. Okay, I got all this. As soon as we hang up, I'll do this. I want to learn all about you.
Beautiful, and yeah, just email me and we'll set up another show.
Okay, that's so totally cool. You have a great one, and really nice talking to you. And be safe up there in Canada.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. How can I get this? Will this be on, tell me where I can find our interview.
I've had so many that I'm releasing periodically. So I'm going to put them on the website. I'm going to put them on YouTube and basically all major platforms. They're on the website. There's a link to every major platform that I'm on. So
I was going to ask. So I just go to your website and then I'll be able to pull this up. And I have a little time and action calendar. What do I give it? 6 to 8 weeks?
Not even. I think I'll probably do it a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, no pressure. I just I love this interview and I want to make sure I have it on my page.
Yeah, and if I'll let you know via email too when it's I can send it to you directly as well. So.
Excellent. Nice chatting with you today. And you take care.
Thanks. You
Bye,
too.
Tattness. Bye-bye.
So that, of course, was none other than the beautiful Wendy Stuart Kaplan. It's always nice to be able to sit and talk to somebody who's successful as well and compare our stories because, maybe it gets tiresome to some people to hear it, but that's how you learn how other people came to be in their position and what they went through, and you'll find that you're not always so different. And sometimes you go through very similar situations in order to get to where you're at. Sometimes it's completely different. Sometimes it's a lot harder for some people, but they made it, So it's always cool to hear people's stories. It's not about bragging rights or anything like that. It's just cool to kind of see what someone had to go through to get where they're at, and it makes you appreciate where they're at more because they earned it, man. So I welcome having her back anytime. Like I said before, there's guests, I get along with just about anybody, but there's guests, dude, that sometimes you just mesh with them immediately, and she's a great example of that. So I look forward to talking to her again. I hope you guys dug this show. It was a lot of fun for me to do, so thanks for listening, man, and I'll catch your asses later. And just so you know, I've got a whole bunch in the barrel that are coming out all at once because I've got so many stacked away that you haven't heard yet. Lots of big names, so be sure to check them out. I thank you guys for everything, all the support over this course. It's been a trip. And there's plenty more where that came from. So thank you all. I'll catch your asses later, man.
I will not speak to your smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know what I should call.